Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Well, everybody, hi, it's Jeff again here. I wanted to talk about some things that are happening in Russia. Not so much what's the war between Ukraine and Russia, but Russia itself. A number of stories have come out today suggesting that Russia's economy is really, if not already fallen off a cliff, okay? It's nosediving sharply. And one of the stories here that I've seen is that they're talking about all the young people leaving Russia, and it's hurting the economy. And now they have a labor shortage over there, and that's not looking good. And the war in Ukraine is costing quite a sliver of Russia's GDP. And all I can think of is that 2 years ago when this started over there, Russia was, I think everyone was pretty aware that Russia's military at that time wasn't what you'd call ideal. Okay, it was ancient, it was old, okay, we'll put it that way. It was about 30 years old, the military they had, and a lot of the equipment they had and stuff was in dire need of, let's say, replacement, okay, and they just ignored it for a long time, because for at least 10 years before the invasion of Ukraine, their economy was doing pretty well, and there was no sign of any kind of military activity that was going to be taking place over there at the time. So I guess they felt like Russia didn't really need to do anything. Plus, in that time, Russia was getting rid of a lot of its naval fleet, scrapping a lot of it, and so it was eating itself. The government was eating itself up, maybe to save costs on maintenance for a lot of this stuff. I don't know. Okay, but for whatever reason, the Russian military was not ideal for what's happening now. And now the tide is turning at least a little bit against Russia, because now Russia can't really protect itself. I mean, just the other day they got drone strikes over in Moscow, for Christ's sake. I mean, they can't even protect their capital. All right, so this war, which everybody thought Ukraine would lose, has really shifted the other way now, because it seems like with all the aid we're giving Ukraine, they're pushing Russia to a stalemate and starting to go back the other way now. And it's showing, because the economy over there is so bad that they're thinking about tax increases on the people, like a 20% hike in their taxes over there, and they're thinking about having people buy military bonds or government bonds, which is kind of a dumb idea, because you have to expect that your government will repay on that. When the government is borrowing money from the people, like we did back in World War II, people knew pretty much that the government would return that money back to the people, plus whatever interest, I guess, that money would be worth more. And so that's what, those are like two things that Russia's thinking about doing, and in either case it's not going to work, because the people are broke. The cost of food and everything is through the roof over there, and now they're the prospect of having a goddamn tax increase is only going to push down even further the prospects of the government even being able to recover in some way what they're losing. And it's just it's not good. And there's already, you know, private militaries forming over there right now, which at one time before 2011 was illegal in that country, but because of Wagner, I think it was Wagner, giving money to Putin and stuff like that. Wagner has private military company, and so so Wagner has a private military there, and that just kind of opened the door for other business people to put private militaries in Russia. So, you know, the stage is already being set right now for a civil war to erupt over there at any time, okay? And some people think it could happen before the end of the year, because right now the country over there is deeply polarized. You've got on one side people who believe everything that Putin says, which is a fucking lie, and on the other side you have people who are like, you know, the people that are fleeing Russia. They know that they're being lied to, and they don't like what's happening to their country. So you have two camps over there forming, and the divide between the two is getting worse as time goes on. It started way back when the war started in Ukraine. You had this divide already developed practically overnight, where people who didn't support Putin and those who did support Putin, okay? So ever since then, this divide has gotten worse and the people are more polarized. So you got that happening, and then you got private militaries forming over there in Russia. So what do you think's going to happen? Okay, and you know, experts are already saying no, all those signs are there for Russia to descend into like friggin' anarchy here before long. And here another thing is that nobody has been selected to replace Putin when the time comes. Okay, nobody. So that says that that Putin has no intention of giving up his position as president there. Okay, nor does he seem to have any trust in the people, because he hasn't shown his face in Russia in quite a while. People are wondering where the hell he is, because he has some representative going around speaking for him. And so rumors are abound in Russia that he's sick, and you know, maybe he ain't going to last much longer. And if that's the case, then either he dies and they get somebody to replace him, or a coup is made during the Civil War or something and he's overthrown. But either way, his days are numbered over there right now, and it's just it seems like, you know, there's all kinds of dominoes ready to fall here, and it could happen overnight practically. You know, it just we have to, you know, I think the rest of the world should be ready for that, because when civil war does break out over there, you know, it could spill out into Ukraine, and you know, who knows, it could create more of a, how could I say, more of a sparking, what do they call it, the you know, the powder keg, a spark that could light the powder keg, okay, to create a world war that could just bleed out all into the rest of the world. And you know, people, I guess, you know, I don't know how much the press is really on to this, but you know, if you read the articles that I've seen today here, one at a time, okay, because they're not all together being reported in the same networks, but if you just go through them, each one, and you read it, okay, you're going to see that there's a pattern here. And why do I recognize a pattern? It's because I see the same pattern more or less happening right here in the U.S. Okay, and that's why I know that, because everybody here is suggesting that, or the experts are saying that, you know, within 10 years the United States could be in itself in a civil war, because of the way we have such a polarization of our own government here. Okay, and so if by that alone, you know, and the United States not being involved in some kind of a war against another country, if that alone is sufficient enough cause for people over here to say that we could be in a civil war in the next decade, then definitely the signs are here in Russia that they could be in one even sooner than that, because of this war in Ukraine they're fighting, and it's killing their economy, destroying the people's lives in both countries, okay, and you know, this is not going to end well for Russia. And if a civil war breaks out anytime this year, with things as they are, I don't know what will anything that happens after that is going to be anyone's guess. Okay, where that goes or where it doesn't go. Okay, because in a war you can't really predict anything, especially if you've got private militaries fighting each other over there. So I don't know. I really don't know. But I think people over there can see the signs. The ones that are not listening to Putin, not listening to the propaganda, okay, ignoring what they're being told, okay, the ones that are smart enough to pack their shit and leave Russia, I think they know more than anyone that this is coming, and they don't want to be anywhere near it. Okay, and like I said, I mean, from the NPR from 3 days ago, it's already talking about how many kids, young people are just fleeing. Let me read a little bit of this one here. It says this girl had a dream job. Now she's part of a massive brain drain hammering Russia. Okay, Alexandra Prokopenko grew up in Moscow. She was always fascinated by economics, money, business, the way economics works. A few years ago, she landed a dream job as an advisor at Russia's central bank in Moscow. Prokopenko loved Moscow. The city was vibrant and beautiful, full of restaurants, music, and culture. But by far her favorite place was Meshernsky Park, a giant forest in the city where Prokopenko would go running. Quote, "It was my favorite place. I always felt really great in there," unquote, she recalls. But Prokopenko, Meshernsky runs are a thing of the past. She left Moscow as well as her job at the central bank shortly after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Prokopenko now works at the German Council on Foreign Relations. Her focus is still the Russian economy. She publishes new analysis and data every week. She says she's glad to be there, but it isn't home. Quote, "I'm missing Moscow a lot," unquote, she says. Quote, "I miss Moscow every day," unquote. Prokopenko is part of a massive wave of young Russians who have fled their country. Though hard numbers are hard to come by, hundreds of thousands are estimated to have left Russia since the invasion of Ukraine. That has contributed to a reduction in Russia's labor force. According to one estimate, more than 1.3 million Russians under the age of 35 have left the Russian workforce just last year alone, though that number could include other factors such as workers taking jobs not officially captured in statistics. Especially among those who have fled the country are educated workers with in-demand skills like engineering or computer programming. This massive loss of talent looks to be one of the biggest economic consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Quote, "I don't think Russian authorities will admit it, but we've seen a massive brain drain," unquote, says Prokopenko. So you see, this has been going on here since this thing started. People who could see that this is not going to end well for Russia. Okay, Russia is on the wrong side of history here with this fight. And, people like her are smart enough to know that it's not going to be safe there. And so they left early. And they're still leaving as things keep getting worse and worse and worse, as it has been over there through this whole war with Ukraine. Because the media's constantly focused on Ukraine and how they're doing. They don't talk too much about what's happening in Russia and how those people are doing over there. I don't know why, but it ain't pretty either way. I mean, sure, they're not under fire and they're not losing all kinds of buildings, but the economy is doing its own damage over there to the Russians, who are basically shut out from the rest of the world. I mean, they turned Russia into a little island on our planet because no one will deal with them anymore. Okay, so their own economy really means nothing. Okay, and it's worthless. And whatever help they might be getting from China is not going to be enough. Okay, from what I've heard, it's going to take ending the war in Ukraine for one thing, getting rid of Putin, and having somebody negotiate with NATO to have all the goddamn restrictions removed from the country, business restrictions, sanctions rather, having all the sanctions lifted. in order for Russia to, heal after this. Okay, but I don't know how soon that would even happen. If this thing ended tomorrow, if the world would really be interested in listening to them again, because I don't think any business is ever going to want to take a risk on Russia ever again now because of this. So yeah, this is not going to end good, and the people who can leave Russia are leaving Russia, and like they said, this is a massive drain on their intelligence over there, the people who are going to be needed to rebuild that country and that economy after, it's been decimated by this bullshit here Putin started. So, I just thought, I should bring that up because, not a whole lot of talk has been made about how what we're doing, and the rest of the world is doing, is affecting Russia behind the wall, because they, like I said, they raised up the iron fucking curtain again. So we don't really know, okay? But the people who have gone in and out of there and have sources coming out of there and talking and stuff, they know, and they're telling people that, hey, look, it ain't good for us over there, and we're leaving that country as fast as we can run. And it's not looking good, and within a few months they could be in a civil war up to their eyeballs over there. Maybe the end of this thing is closer than we think, with this battle in Ukraine. But certainly a military presence should not be removed from Ukraine when the fighting is over. It should stay, because a country in civil war is a country that is unpredictable, and you don't know if they're going to try to go back into Ukraine again during a civil war and seize in what they can. So it would be smart for NATO and everybody else to continue to provide military defense for Ukraine even after a declaration of the war in Ukraine is over, or they may not even be a declaration. It just might just end with the uprise of a civil war and the military, the government military having to be called in to fight inside their own borders. Okay. So things are going to get really dicey over there soon, and it's going to change the face of our international policy while Biden is president here, I think, in a short time. Anyway, that's it for today. Talk to you guys later.